Calculating rehab is probably one of the most confusing things for brand new real estate investors. And in today's video, I'm going to try to outline how you guys can calculate rehab so that you guys can analyze more properties to make sure that they are good deals. And also, I'm going to go over with you a bunch of different things that you got to watch out for so that you can stay safe within this whole entire process. Hey guys, I'm Hoan. Welcome to the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. And I have been renovating properties for probably the last 10 years, 11 years in my own deals. Now, I am not the one doing the work. I have contractors do the work for me. But in order for me to have bought as many properties as I have, I needed to calculate the rehab to tell whether the deal is a good deal or not a good deal. So I'll tell you guys about how I actually calculate the numbers myself. Let's actually start off with one thing. The number that you generate will 100% be wrong, and you need to be okay with that. Okay, I'll say that again. The number that you calculate will 100% be incorrect, and that is what you have to get over. A lot of brand new real estate investors, they need to be perfect in every single way. That's the analysis or paralysis analysis, right? They got to get perfect every single way. Well, here you're not going to be perfect, and your entire journey will not be perfect. So make sure that you are prepared for that. Just be okay that things won't go super smooth, super to a T. The plan will not be correct. So with that, let's get started with how you can actually start calculating your rehab. So first, there's something that's called the square footage method. The square footage method is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to take the square footage and then you're going to multiply by some number, and that's going to give you your cost of renovations. Like I said though, you will be wrong. Even if you're close, you're still technically wrong. Right? But what you're going to do is you're going to look at the property, you're going to look at the pictures, and then you're going to try to give it a number. You're going to assign a number that you think is going to cover the rehab. So let's say the property is 1,000 square foot. I use 1,000 square feet because that's easy for the math. So you might look at it and you might say something like, that's $15 per square foot. So if you said that, then that is a $15,000 rehab. For me, $15,000, that's a really, really light rehab. So that is literally just paint and carpet and you're ready to go for a 1,000 square foot house. Now you might say $25,000, that's $25 a square foot. So you might look and you might need paint, carpet, you might need to touch up the cabinets and countertops and bathroom, things like that. So you see how you can assign it a square footage. Now, how do you know what to assign it? Well, that's the key. That's the key here. You got to actually talk to a contractor that's going to do the work for you. Anybody, if you're watching a YouTube video that's telling you, please assign $15 a square foot or $25 a square foot or $35 a square foot, they're not taking into account what your contractor is going to charge. They're not taking into account the area that you're living in and how much contractors charge. That is super important that you realize that you can't get a square footage number just from the internet. You have to talk to people local to your area that's doing work. Ask them, hey, if you were to do a square footage calculation, I know it's difficult, but if you were to do a square footage calculation, what would you assign a light rehab, a medium rehab, and a total gut rehab? How much would you assign dollar per square foot? Have them tell you. So square footage method could work. It's going to be very inaccurate, and you just have to be okay with that because you got to analyze. You got to use something. So the square footage one, it's a good way to do it because it's better than having nothing. The other way that I like a little better, but it's not as efficient, is doing the walkthrough room by room, assign the room a dollar amount. So you're going to walk into a room, you're going to look around the room, and kind of like the square footage one where you're going to try to assess the condition, you're going to assess the condition, but per room. So when you walk into the living room, is the living room going to need just paint? The floors are good, the lights are good, everything's good, just paint. Then you might assign it $1,000. If you walk into the kitchen, and again, everything looks in good working order, it just needs paint, that's $1,000. If it starts needing cabinets, then maybe that's $5,000, or a countertop, I should say. That might be $5,000, paint and countertop. $5,000. Do you need new floors? We need new floors. Maybe add another 5, right? So you're going to go in increments of 1, 5, 10, 15, 20. So you're going to walk into a room and you're going to say, is this a $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000 or $15,000 room? What is it? You're going to go into each room, bedrooms, dining rooms, bathroom, kitchen, even the basement, you're going to walk into all the rooms and assign it a dollar amount. Again, you have to talk to a contractor and see if these numbers even make sense, because you could assign it something and the contractor's like, I'm not doing it for that. So you take your whole rehab budget and you throw it away because no contractor is going to do it for that. But again, this gives you a baseline of what it might cost for rehab so that when you're doing your analysis, you can say deal or no deal contingent upon this rehab number. It's best if you walk through the property and do it, but you can technically do it from the pictures. You can just look and say, okay, again, 5,000, 10,000, whatever it is per bedroom. So do that instead of walking through. At least just look at the pictures and assign each one. The reason I like that better than the square footage method is because it's a little bit more precise, slightly more. Whereas the square footage, it's doing it for the whole house, assuming every single room is exactly the same in terms of condition. The per room method gives each room its own score. Now, once you actually figure out the rehab numbers, you do your analysis, you figure out it's a deal, and then you buy the property, and then you have the contractor working in the house, and you realize this is a good contractor, and I'm going to use this contractor over and over and over. Here's the number one thing that you can do for your rehabs moving forward. It's create a menu. Talk to that contractor and say, hey, I would love to use you over and over and over. Can you just give me an hour? Let's sit down and let's create a menu. So now you can sit with the contractor and you can come up with a menu of how much each thing costs. That's what I mean by menu. So here, it's like flooring. How much do you charge per square foot? And write that down. How much do you charge to install a window? How much do you charge to install a new countertop or a new sink or new this or new that? And go line by line and create a menu and put a dollar amount for each thing. And if you do it that way, now you have an exact cost so that when you're looking at pictures in future deals, you know exactly what it's going to cost because you and your contractor sat down and said, this is what it's going to cost. That way, you're even more precise. You're still not going to be 100% correct, but at least you're going to be more precise. And the reason why you're not going to be 100% precise is because the cost of materials might be different, and then there are going to be change orders because there are things behind the walls that you might not have seen. There's a couple of things that I want to go over with you quickly to keep you safe in this process. If you are finally ready to hire a contractor because you bought the property and you're ready to go do some work, I want you guys to know this to be super safe. The first thing you want to look at is having a lien waiver. A lien waiver is where you will have a document where the contractor signs off that they did a certain amount of work and that they cannot sue you for unpaid work. So the lien waiver says that I, the contractor, have done X amount of work and I cannot put a judgment against the client, which is you, right? They can't go after money for the job that's unpaid because it got done. And so they're waiving their right to put a judgment against the property, often called a mechanic's lien. The other thing that you want to be mindful of is to minimize how much money you put down on a project and give to a contractor. What I've seen in the past is that contractors, well, I don't even want to call them contractors because they weren't. They would come, they would estimate a job, and they say, okay, this job is $50,000. Please put half of it down, and I get started on Monday. And then you give them $25,000, and then you never hear from them ever again. They change their phone number, their emails no longer work, and you're out of the money. So minimize how much money you give them. And when I say minimize, try to make it zero. When you are getting work done, make sure you get it in writing to avoid confusion, because you might think like that the contractor is going to do something one way and then he does it a different way, and then you go, who's right? Nothing's in writing. So get it in writing so that it avoids confusion. A big one that a lot of people don't calculate is to have extra money. Things will happen and it's going to cost more than you assume. If it costs less than you assume, fantastic, you win. But when things go awry and you don't have that extra money, then you're going to be super stressed out. So have extra money in place before you get into a construction project. You can even have a line of credit, but just have that extra money in place because things will happen and will stress you out. And the last tip that I have for you guys is to buy right. Buy correctly. Make sure you don't overpay for a property, because if you underpay for a property, if you get a smoking deal, then you could be wrong with your rehab numbers and you can be wrong by a big margin, and your deal could still be a deal. What often happens is people buy tight deals and then their rehab budget goes over budget, and then they have a property where they're upside down, where they spent more money on the acquisition and the rehab than the property's actually worth. So you don't want to do that. So the number one thing that you can do is simply just buy right. Buy correctly, make sure that you have extra room for if the construction budget goes over. If you guys would like to chat more about best practices when it comes to rehab, check out the community, hoanzone.com/community. Within there, that is where you can share your questions and your comments about rehab, about acquisitions, about doing more deals, about going bigger, and whatever else is on your mind about real estate investing. So again, check out hoanzone.com/community. All right, guys, let me know below in the comments which of those tips was the most useful for you as you're trying to figure out this real estate business. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe, because we release new videos every Monday and Wednesday here at the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. I'm Hoan Tide. Let's multiply.